Hello, everyone. It's Graham Coath with my music of today, which you might not know unless you are following this all day long. You might be just streaming the one episode of this on Spotify. If you are, I'm so grateful that you're here, and I'm thankful every single day for all of you that actually bother to listen. I'm going to be speaking to the wonderful Val Flores in a minute, but first, we're going to have this video, as always, from Analog Trash. Val, thanks for joining me. Where are you coming from today?
Well, now I am based in Valencia, but I'm actually Mexican. So I've been living here for a year. Thank you for the invitation, by the way.
Oh, it's an absolute pleasure. Now, listen, I want to get this one out of the way first because listening to your voice, it's huge, right? And the music you make is incredibly big and theatrical. So I really need to know, because we've had a list of people from the different people that have been on today, of people that have been quite influential to them, from Rudimental to Chase and Status to Boys to Men, Stevie Wonder. But one name that did come up earlier, who I think might be an influence of sorts on you, was Florence and the Machine. Am I right? Am I wrong?
I've been told that a lot, but honestly, like it's not part of my influences. It's been very weird, like my influentials, like inspiration actually, because I grew up with classic rock music, but also with Spanish pop, like Mexican pop.
Oh,
So I think it's a merge of everything, but it's very funny because I've been told that a lot lately since my EP. So
maybe it's the dressing up and as I say, kind of the theatrics of it, and the big voice as well. I mean, it's not a bad thing to have as someone that people are putting you on a pedestal with, is it, Florence and the Machine? Tell me then. I mean, I know absolutely nothing about kind of Mexican pop and whatever. So tell me, what sort of things were you listening to as you grew up, and what does that sound like?
okay, so when I was a kid, I think I enjoyed a lot like just love songs and like sad love songs, and in a very transparent way. Like I knew nothing about them, but I just liked the storytelling side of it. So as I grew up with that Spanish pop, such as Hash or Laura Pausini, which is not Mexican but was really played in Mexico, this storytelling was my biggest inspiration. Then as I grew up and started like watching Hannah Montana or like mainstream pop from US, I kind of merged that and started writing songs in this way, whether love songs, whether sad love songs, or if I'm mad, like it's always like in emotions and the colors I picture. So it can be pop mixed with alternative rock. It can be pop with really indie country vibe, So it's all of a mix based on what I actually feel in the moment.
Wow, are you from quite a musical family yourself, or?
No, actually, I am the only one who is
Oh,
like
right.
in music in my family right now. My brother plays guitar, but a part of that, like I've been the only one pursuing a career since I was young. Yeah.
Yeah. So where did you listen to this music then when you were young? I mean, if you did your parents listen to music at all, or was it did
Yeah.
you have to find music outside of your house as well?
Well, basically, my parents had different music tastes, like completely opposite. Like my dad listens to regional Mexican music, and I honestly don't like it. So I was always into my mom's side, and my mom was really diverse with like Phil Collins and like classic rock music, and then also the pop and international music too. So she like opened myself into exploring different genres throughout my childhood, and then I stick to ballads and pop and but also like always going back to my oldies but goldies. So I think that's why it's a little bit of both. Yeah.
Yeah. And when did you first start to learn an instrument or make music for yourself?
I started at the age of 6 to play the piano, but I actually started songwriting around 8, and honestly, I didn't like
Wow.
anything until I was around 15. Like I was just practicing every day, you know. Took me a while.
Yeah. So did you do like grades and stuff like that? Were you working your way up in terms of was that at school that you studied the
No,
instrument?
it was just particular classes, but I actually took me a couple of years to convince my parents that I wanted to pursue like a career in music. So I studied music production, like in the end, you know, and then music business. But
Oh, so you were one of those that had to have that conversation with your parents,
yeah,
yeah? And music wasn't seen as necessarily a sensible career to pursue. Then, what was it that they thought that you should go and do, just out of interest? Because you clearly quite bright. So, what else were you good at school at?
well, I've always been like really into public speaking and like just developing my own brand and stuff. So I thought they got convinced through that. But also, you know, my strategic there was that the bachelor was in engineering too, you know? So I was like, well, I'm gonna be an engineer. Like I have to study this. Like it's better than studying any other thing, you know. I went through that like line. Honestly, I struggled a lot with the engineering side, but I actually like ended up liking it. But yeah, I've been really now a marketing girl and like just exploring this side of business at the same time, which is like how I feel my 360 career somehow. But yeah, that's how I convince them.
Oh, but maybe the engineering will come back and be really useful one day. Do you think? I mean, when you actually get famous and you're designing a massive stage set, you'll know how to engineer it.
Yeah, I honestly feel really attracted to those things, so I would love to do that.
Yeah, would you? You'd love to, like, go. I'm going to have a massive spider, and it's going to come down, and it's going to crawl around the stage, and all of that. So, would
I
you
think I
be?
would do it more the Taylor Swift style, you know, like just something safe and just moving around. And yeah,
Yeah,
not that
absolutely,
extreme. Sadly, I'm not
absolutely.
extreme.
Oh, in terms of how you go about writing, how do you start these days? How do you? Because these pieces are very, very big in terms of their soundscape. So where does that start for you? Is it literally just on the piano and just bare kind of essentials, or?
It depends though, but what happens more often is that I am carrying like a long emotion like during the day. So at night I just explode in my piano. And I always play a song that I already have. Yes. I already
Yeah,
play just one song. I like it's just something really magical that I love. I end up playing one of my songs, and then as soon as I finish, the first key I play is the first chord I'm gonna start writing with. So I just start from there, which is it's something really really weird, but I just like it, and then I start singing on top. So I build like the melody and the lyrics at the same time. If I'm having this emotional stuff going on in
yeah.
the transparent way, otherwise it's a little longer process where I just do the lyrics first and then I go to the piano. But honestly, I prefer having something transparent and just exploding in my music, you know.
So that could be one of your own song. Is it always one of your own songs that you play first, or could that be somebody else's song that
I
that
don't know. I mean, I've been playing like for a while, but I always it just happens always before playing one of my songs. It's just like
right?
because sometimes I take breaks, and I think that somehow reminds me of what I've gone through before, and
Yeah.
it's like a message to myself that okay, I did this one, I can do something better, or I can do a new thing. You know, it's just I think it's something really like psychology stuff inside. Yeah,
So that means that this is going to really lend itself to, at some point, you producing a whole album,
yeah, I
right?
hope so.
Yeah, because, well, and that's unusual these days because a lot of young people only want to produce like singles, and that's the easier way to get stuff out, etc. But I guess with your kind of music, or I'd feel with your kind of music, it kind of would suit an album and exploring a whole range of emotions and coming out. But if the song that you've just played is going to finish in one key, etc., and then the next one's going to start in that, that could actually be a concept album. Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, I didn't refer to like the last key I play. It's just I just play a random key after, and
Ah,
that's the one I start with. You know, like
I
yeah, yeah.
see. Sorry.
But that's a
I
good idea, though. I like that. I'll explore that.
Yeah, exactly. Because what I was thinking is if you did that, so it's like da, and then that's the start of the next song da, and then it carries on. Then you'd end up with like a set of songs which could just run into each other, and that would be wonderful. And also, it will really screw up all of the streaming platforms. I remember, years ago when Prince first did that with Alphabet Street, like that album, etc., and it was all just one track, and he released it as one track. So all of the songs went into each other, but it was on the CD and everything else. It was one track, and that's brilliant, you know, because it was like nobody could burn it, or they couldn't burn their one song off of it. It forced people to listen to the whole album. Do
Yeah.
you, yeah, exactly. Do you think that people don't spend enough time actually making time to sit and listen to music these days?
I think we are used to listen to music anywhere. So I think this is actually a better time. Like I grew up always like every time I
Ah,
went to the mall, I had to leave the mall with my CD. So I'm like really training, listening to a whole album, understanding the concept. And I hate that albums are not like a trend right now, except for mainstream people, you know. But I do like this part of the concepts, and I think it's something that somehow will come back. I hope so, as fashion trends and everything comes back. So I'm hoping it is the case. But I think we might not appreciate the same way, but we're more exposed to music, you know?
yeah. I think I think a lot of people in this day and age, and it could have always been true. Maybe it's just because I've always loved music, but I think a lot of people just hear music; they don't actually listen to it. You know, I'm always conscious of that, and I don't know what people think if you're listening, etc. Out there. What do you think? But I just think that to actually listen to something, you need to make space, and there's so much distraction around these days. I mean, it's even like when you go and sit and watch the TV in the evening, people don't sit, even then, people don't sit and watch TV now. You get half the room are watching the TV, the other half are like looking at their phones like this, kind of
Yeah.
peering over every now and again. They're not really completely focused on that. And I just think, it'd be lovely if we suddenly got back to people carving out a bit of time in their lives where they just go, do you know what? Now I'm not doing anything else other than putting that needle down on that record or whatever and listening to that for 10 minutes or quarter of an hour or even an hour or so. That would be a marvelous thing. Now, noticed from your Instagram stream, etc., that you're also incredibly visual. And
Yeah.
and you kind of like your color as well, which I think is fantastic. We've gone for a nice bright pink here today. What Where does the visual side come in from your point of view?
I think it's all about color psychology. Like I've been very strict in like the first thing I see in the morning is the first thing I feel like, so I'm gonna wear it, you know. And all of the songs I related them to a certain color. So if you see like my music videos, there's very clear each one has its own color, and there's a reason why I related to that color. Um, so I think that's the visual part of it all, but also I grew up watching tons of music videos. Like I was more into music videos than anything else on the computer. No video games, no playing games, no, I was just into music videos and the storytelling part. So the side that I enjoy the most of that are very literal. So it all starts with what's going on in my life. How do I picture it? How do I picture the whole music video? I'm thinking of all these things as I'm writing the song, which is a little overwhelming sometimes, but it just all makes sense. So if you see, like, for example, my music video running out of time, there are certain elements like the disco ball or like the Polaroids that are of other songs from the same EPs. Like I actually like to connect everything, even though the songs are really different. For example, Mercy is just a madness and crazy song that's
Yeah,
different to the others. But I also somehow combine them all with running out of time. So I actually like to think about a concept. If it's a feeling, how am I going to explode that feeling? You know, if it's frustration, I combine it with religion. I combine it with tons of red stuff. I combine it with the flashy makeup and all that stuff. So it's how can I explode the most the whole concept, you know?
Wow. I'm surprised you didn't go and study film in that respect. Do you know what I mean? Because I mean, kind of what you're talking about there is things like the mise en scène, you know, what's in the background, and actually those little elements linking one thing to another, and that's so important. You know, if people who don't know or have never studied film, either you know, some great directors would put like little bits in one part of a film and it would relate maybe to another story that they've been telling or whatever, and it's great. And if you know, once you start seeing them, you perhaps even know what's maybe going to happen later on in the film. It can be like
Yeah.
little visual clues. I love all of that. So yeah, I'm kind of surprised that you didn't do film. But what you were talking about there with the color side of things, does that mean like when you get up in the morning, if you're working on a particular project at the moment, it takes you forever to get dressed because you have to think, right, I've got to this
No.
the energy that is needed for today is orange, for example, or it's got to be burnt orange, and I've got to make sure that I'm in burnt orange today. Because, or does that just happen naturally? Are you just radiating that kind of energy all of the time?
It's just naturally, actually. Like, it's just how I wake up. The first thing I see is like, this is my mood. So I never plan the outfits, like, if unless it's a photo shoot or a music video, which is a whole thing that is already planned. But I honestly feel like like my closet is literally in colors arranged. Like, it's
Oh wow!
stuff.
Right.
So I
Okay.
just go directly, it's really simple, but it happens with everything. Like, all of the stuff I have with me, there's a reason why. And I like to think that everything is like, there's a reason why for everything in every part of the music, in every movie, as you were saying. I also pay a lot of attention to the film scoring more than the movie, like, most of the times. So I like to see these details. Like, I appreciate people thinking about them. So I think that's why I'm really like into those details. And I've been really into fashion, so I try to merge everything. As an artist, you're also a brand, so all these things are crucial, in the development now as an independent artist mostly.
Sounds like you could be an incredibly strong businesswoman as well. Have you, you know, going forward in your career, where do you see yourself in sort of 5 years' time? Would you like to have your own fashion brand and your own film company and so on? Because I can see in a way that just the music would be a bit limiting for you.
Well, I actually like to develop the artistic DNA of different artists and find that influencer DNA too. So I've been working in with several artists, doing their marketing strategies, finding their artistic DNA in the terms of influencer, their social media strategies and stuff. So I see myself having my own agency at some point of my life, where I involve in this creative process of other artists. And I like to be an artist myself too, but I also enjoy a lot developing other artists. So I think it must be like a combination of both in order
Well,
for
you
me to.
see, there you go. I knew that you were a kindred spirit because you know that's the part that I really love as well. And just having that conversation with the previous artists that came on, that actually a lot of artists these days struggle with the bit beyond the music and getting the music produced, etc., but getting it out there and having, because it's another creative element, and actually but it's a different creative element because sometimes you actually have the music production process, etc., and they might have like enough energy for the video and what they want in the video, etc. But that whole piece about how do we now creatively show this brand to the world and continue that and get buy-in in different touch points, that's something that a lot of musicians have never had to think about in the past, but they do now, right? Yeah. What
Yeah.
what what's some of the things that you think about when you think about trying to get your brand across to other people?
Well, it all starts with social media right now. Like, I like every time I'm in the studio, I miss the studio because I my co-producer is in Mexico. So when I go back, I'm definitely gonna go back and lock myself there. But what we always do is that I always have a GoPro recording everything, because the
Cool.
part that I enjoy the most, besides like being in the studio and recording and my own voice and the backing vocals, is the extra instruments day, where we just find tone, where we get the scenes when we start. And sometimes I just sing a melody on top of what we record, and then all of that process, I love to share it. So I end up creating content about behind the song and behind the lyrics, and then I explain. There's always this drama side of like, who did she write this song about? But it's funny, but it's not the most important thing for me. It's about how the song evolves through myself and how the process is. So I always start with this side, but I also start with the part of like, how do I see the song and explain what I envision for the video. I was not planning to actually do music videos before coming here. We did the 3 in 2 days, and that's because I was pretty lucky. I found um, a company named Todo Chido. It's a small company in Monterrey. I pitched them one video because I was working on another company, and the DOP of that company, we were close friends, and he was like, "Hey, the company closed, but if you ever want to do a video," and I was like, "You don't have to say it again. I want to do a video." So I pitched this to the other company, and they're like, "Hey, Val, like we read your proposal, but we actually want to make 3 music videos. Would you accept doing 3 music videos for the price of one?" And I was like, "Hell yes." So all this process and how things start to happen organically is part of the transparency I want to keep. And then, I merged with having a podcast and talking about the industry, talking about the 20s era, because, it's very different. Like, I think I'm very different when I was 20 than when I'm now 24. It's just 4 years, but, moving out of my country and stuff, it's a different um, side of the things. You see, you just have different perspectives. So I like to be very transparent through that. And then passion comes. Like, I love to make reels, I love to make content, I love to make content for companies. So I think it's all about merging all these skills and showing the people what's behind, because it's not really common. I love to see Ariana Grande putting her backing vocals process, or Dua Lipa now for the Barbie song and stuff. That's the thing I was interested in seeing when I was a kid, and there was almost nothing. So I
Yeah.
like that we are exposed to that now, and I want to explore that part mostly.
Do you think there's a risk though with that? And I'm being genuine here. Do you think there's a risk that with your generation of artists, and I think you're right. These are all the things that you need to do in order to get it right. My generation of musicians, we fudged it. Okay, we literally started a band or whatever just because your mate was you bought a guitar or whatever, and we kind of did it just because it was a bit of fun, and no one really took the music bit seriously. But then it became a bit serious because people started listening to it and whatever, and before you knew it, you were in a signed band and you were doing all of this stuff, but you really hadn't got a clue. And these days, young people like you are so much more switched on and so much more kind of focused on the business side of things as well, and what you need to do, whatever. But is there a risk in all of that you might either burn out, or the fun element of it isn't there at all? Do you know what I'm saying? Because actually, with my generation, it was kind of like, well, with just actually, you see it now a lot with people of my age. They're just now getting to the point, and you'll see it on social media where they're going, I now know what I want to do, and I'm 51. Because actually, most of your life, you've just been kind of trying stuff out and just winging it here or there. People like you know exactly what you want to do, right? And you've got it kind of mapped out. But is there an element where it could be, you could look back and go, I just wish I just hung for a year or two there and just, I don't know.
I think what is most important for me these days is like to be true to myself in terms of why I actually enjoy doing, for me not to burn out. If I'm burnt out in the songwriting part, then I'm gonna focus on the social media and building my community. But there's also people I work with, some other emerging artists are like, I don't enjoy creating content, Val. Can you help me? And I'm like, okay, if you don't enjoy and you have that already detected, then deliver it to someone else. Like, because then that's when the burnout comes. It's hard to do everything by yourself if it's not a full-time job, and of course it's not a full-time sustainable job right now. So I think that's the delicate line that we have, where are we going to focus our energy on knowing what we enjoy and what we don't enjoy. So I think I'm weird, and I only like to do the whole thing, and it's hard for me to involve people in my music videos. For example, I did a whole PDF for them to read about everything that was behind the song, and that's how the director put into image everything I had on my mind. And that's when you realize that you actually need a team. So you need to trust other people and be transparent with them too. If you want to do everything for yourself, by yourself, with few time, not as a full time, it's really hard to get there. It's not like those times when you got discovered in YouTube and like easily we are there's an over exploitation of content everywhere, so it's hard to I don't know, like come up, So I think that's the risk right now. It's
Yeah.
not easy because you have to differentiate yourself, but you can't differentiate yourself if you're not enjoying the process either.
So what I'm hearing is that you have to have that. You have to outsource. You have to get other people involved. You have to build a team. You have to know when your boundaries are being pushed, etc., so that you don't burn out. But clearly, on the way up, there's not the money there. So do you have to be a really skilled people person to do all of this properly, so that you can convince people to come along with the ride with you, if you like, because ultimately you're all going to get there together? Do you need to have that skill? Is that a skill set that's really important?
I think it's not that important if you're focusing on one or two things. If you believe on your project, I never knew I would have such a huge team for my videos. And I never imagined that before coming to Valencia. But it happens because I believed in my music. And when you show it and you trust some people to listen to it and you believe on them, they believe on it too. And they want to add up. So it's all about, hey, we're
Mm,
starting together. We might not get there easily, but if we get there, we all get rewarded. Like it's just about giving credits too. It's about appreciating, being thankful with people. And I think that's a beautiful side of it all because you realize that you're not the only one believing in your own project. You have all these people that want to work with you, even if there is not much money involved yet. So I think that's something really beautiful about starting and growing and see how you grow as an artist, but see how also your team grows with you. So, I think I appreciate that a lot, honestly.
yeah, I think there's a lot of business people who might watch this over the next week or so that could actually learn a thing or two from you. It's important. Collaboration's important, and I think traditionally there's been too many people that have just ploughed their own field or shouted their own voice, and it's their own rhetoric. But actually, you know, getting that belief from other people is so important, and part of that is you shining a light on them at the same time as them shining a light on you, isn't it? It's really all taking that leap of faith together, which I think is a wonderful thing. I really do think that's a wonderful thing. What are you working on at the moment?
Well, right now I just graduated from my master's, so I've been in Valencia enjoying because I've always been working and studying. So
Congratulations. Yeah.
thank you. I just like settling down. I just got a keyboard and I'm gonna go straight back to songwriting. But there's some songs that I have from before that I'm hoping to record in December when I go back to Mexico. So I'm hoping I record 5, 6 songs and start in January with new releases. So I'm just gonna be working on them. Yeah.
Cool. Now, listen, folks. When you hear those songs, you will notice that they end with one chord and the next one starts with the other, and you know where that came from, right?
Yes. Credits for you, definitely.
Will you be experimenting at all as you write these next set of songs? Is there anything that you've been listening to lately or thinking about lately that might influence
Well,
this next set of songs?
yeah, I've been listening a lot to the 1975 for some reason because I love arrangements. I love a huge band. I
The
love,
latest album in particular, in terms of that whole
yes,
production.
yes, it's
The,
huge. So
yeah,
that's gonna be my inspiration. I want to incorporate more instruments, more extra melodies, and just making it big in that way. Yeah.
yeah, that is definitely. It's very much a soundscape album, isn't it? And what you see that lends itself to actually that one song starting on the chord of another. So there you go. It's all falling into place as we speak. I believe that every single conversation you have with everybody that you meet in life actually leads to something that will influence in. Maybe I need to just expand my wardrobe in terms of color though, because you've obviously got great vibe in terms of color. I tend to wear black. That's not necessarily the best thing in the world. Where can people listen to your music? Let's give them that so that they can go and explore your music, and then if you do like it, please do spend a bit of money. for a start, stream everything multiple times, add it to a playlist. But if you can, do give Val some money in one shape or form. However, she's now going to tell us that you can do that because music doesn't grow on trees. Val, over to you. Where would you like people to connect with you?
Okay, so you can find in every platform my music as Val. It's easier to put Running Out of Time than album name because it's easier to find me. My
You're
music
running
is
out of time. You're running out of time, folks. Come on.
Instagram Val Flores G, and that's it.
There you go. Well, listen, I wish you all the success. I don't think you need it from me, particularly because I think actually you're incredibly talented, and I can only see you being successful because of the passion and the determination that you've got, and the vision that you've got as well, which is really, really important. And I expect in years to come we'll all be buying Val Flores clothes and listening to her music and going to see her at major stadiums throughout the world. Please do listen to her music, and if you agree, then do let us know. If you've enjoyed this today, then this has been My Music with me, Graham, and Val here. If you haven't enjoyed this today, shame on you. And this actually hasn't been my music. It's been an instructional video on how to refill your ballpoint pen. You can now do with this video whatever you like, as long as you share it with other people so that they can listen to it. Until next time, thank you for joining me. Thanks, Val.
Bye bye. Thank you.
Bye for now.